In the dead of night, under a starlit sky, Colin Saunders' reality shattered as he witnessed a triangular craft silently gliding above, defying the laws of physics and challenging the very essence of his beliefs. This was no ordinary night in 1999. It marked the beginning of an odyssey into the unknown. Colin, propelled by this eerie encounter, embarked on a mission to uncover the truth. His quest led him to a startling discovery. He was not alone. His book became a compilation of over 130 first-hand accounts, each narrating close encounters with these enigmatic triangular UFOs in the United Kingdom. But the narrative takes an even more bizarre turn. Witnesses reported not just sightings, but lost time, mysterious men in black, and a strange connection between UFOs and paranormal activities. The most bone-chilling aspect? Reports of alien telepathy, a concept so alien it seems ripped from the pages of science fiction. Colin Saunders' story is a testament to the unexplained mysteries that hover in our skies, a reminder that the universe harbors secrets beyond our current understanding. His journey from a quiet night in 1999 to delving into the depths of the unknown challenges us to question what truths lie hidden in the night sky. But as we delve deeper into his narrative, one question lingers, a question that might change everything we know about our world and ourselves. What if the answers we seek are not in the skies, but within us? Stay tuned for an exploration into the unknown, where reality and mystery collide.
What's up, my friend? Consider this your official invitation to our upcoming 4-day mystical immersion conference. It's going to be amazing. We're going to spend 4 days encountering the presence of God, going deep into the heart of Jesus to choose our mystical identity. We're going to be exploring the power of your choice. We're going to be tapping into the mystical side of our faith, which is pretty much all of it, all while diving deep into our true identity, who we really are in Him. I'm so excited about this retreat because I've teamed up with some good friends of mine that's gonna make this thing even better. Myself, Gil Hodges from Kingdom Talks, Martin Smith with Identity Coaching, come on guys. And we'll also be joined by my good friend, Lahaba. It's always something amazing when I team up with these guys. This 4-day encounter starts February the 15th through the 18th. It's gonna be in Anderson, South Carolina. As of December the 4th, we have released the early bird special, so make sure you get your tickets ASAP because the prices will increase. I can't wait to see you in 2024 at the Choosing Your Mystical Identity 4-day encounter. It's gonna be amazing. Go to seer.school to get your tickets now.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Truth Seeker Podcast. I'm excited to be here. We're talking about UFOs and the paranormal. Today, my guest is Colin Saunders. Colin, welcome to the show, brother. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Derek, and thank you for inviting me to your show.
I've seen the models and the pictures and these things that you've been creating and of these craft that you've experienced. So you put out a book on this, you have models, and this is like really a big part of your life. So ready to dive into it with you, your experiences and what got you into it, and why you're still like, I don't know if is obsessed a good word for this?
Yeah, I would say obsessed is a pretty good
Sure.
word, yes. I think it had so much of an impact on me that night that I've never been able to stop thinking about it. It'll soon be 25 years, and I've thought about it every day since then. And I've had some other experiences as well, which we can talk about along the way.
Yeah, well, I love to start at the beginning always. So if you want to set that up for the listeners, just talk about, what got you into this field, like that first encounter, and we'll just build on that.
Yes. Before I get into the actual sighting, I just want to say that originally I got no interest in UFOs. I wasn't looking for a UFO. Just a passing interest like everybody else. I've been to see Star Wars at the pictures when that came out all those years ago, but no great fascination. I wasn't looking for this thing. Now, also, the reason why I think I personally make a good witness is because of my working career, which I'll just quickly run through, because it does have a bearing, I believe, on the sighting and certainly on the model that I've built. I'm now heading for retirement. I'm 65 now. But I spent all of my life being a draftsman. I've been an electrical design draftsman. I've worked in the oil industry for Chevron Petroleum. I've worked in New Zealand for refrigeration companies. But more importantly, I have worked on the Airbus in Germany. And I also worked for Saab Aerospace for a couple of years in Sweden on a civilian aircraft over there. And also along the way, I became AutoCAD User of the Year. Back in, I think I was 1989. I've got the trophy behind me there somewhere, but AutoCAD is a really good computer-aided design package. I got quite involved in that. So my whole life leading up to the encounter has been drawing, basically, on the drawing board and working with geometry, which I think, obviously, especially the aircraft industry, gives me a good grounding in what we saw that night. So if we go to that night, it all started on the 31st of March, 1999. We'd gone out for a meal in the English countryside in a little village called Paleton. There's a pub there called the White Lion. Now, there were two cars. I was in a car. My wife was driving the first car. My mother-in-law, it was her birthday that day. She was sitting next to my wife, and I was sitting in the back with my daughter. So it was me, my daughter, my wife, and my mother-in-law all in one vehicle. And in the next vehicle was my brother-in-law with his French partner and her grandparents. So we'd gone to the pub, we'd had a bar meal and everything was fine. Then we come to leave. And I remember as we pulled off, I looked through the back window of the car that we was in. I could see my brother-in-law struggling to get the old French lady into the Range Rover. So we pulled off ahead, and I thought they'll soon catch us up. So off we went through the Warwickshire countryside. It's pitch black. There's no street lights. It's just country lanes. And we come up to an old Roman road called the Fosse Way. This was built, obviously, centuries ago by the Romans, and apparently they build them on ley lines, but whether that's got anything to do with it or not, I don't know. But we said, right, we're just about to turn onto the Fosse Way. And my daughter said, there's been talk of headless horsemen down here. So we all laughed, had a bit of a chuckle, said, yeah, we'll keep our eyes open for him then. As soon as we turned the corner, exactly half a mile away, because I've been there and measured it the very next day, were some lights hovering by the side of the road. They were red, mainly deep red, with a bit of white mingled up into the lights as well. Now, obviously, we all got excited by this because this is the Fosse Way. There's no street lights, there's no pylons, there's no aircraft lights, there's nothing. It's just dark black countryside, and there'd been nothing on the way down that we'd passed. There's no like works or civil engineering going on or anything along those lines. They were just these lights. So we're all talking about them, saying there's too many lights for helicopter and too low for aeroplane, that sort of thing. And they were just flashing away. The brilliant light show, absolutely amazing. And we drove towards them, talking and getting all excited. And then we stopped more or less underneath them. I would say, and I'm very good with distances, this craft was 100 feet away from us, except at this particular moment in time, there was no craft. It was just lights. These lights were just suspended in the sky. And I would say there must have only been something like 50 feet off the ground and 100 feet away, extremely close. If I got a cricket ball, I could have hit them. Now on the back, there were 4 big red lights, and they were tilted at an angle. Just quickly show you on the book, you can see these 4 red lights at the back. They weren't level with the earth. They were tilted at a slight angle. And there was a bit of white mixed in with these lights and a smaller red light off to one side. And I remember staring at the 4th light, the highest one of the tilt, and it got like a crisscross effect on the lens. It looked really interesting. It looked like Newton's law of ring interference. It didn't look like a manufactured piece of glass, like a stoplight on the traffic lights. it looked like the light coming out of it was creating these wave patterns in it that made it a crisscross pattern on it. And I'm thinking to myself, what on earth are we looking at here? It's absolutely incredible. As soon as I had that thought, I could see the sky start to ripple around the lights. It's easy if I show you on this particular one. This is the first model that I built, actually. Okay, I've got a battery pack.
Wow.
In this. So we're looking at the rear end of this craft, and it's tilted at an angle like this, but there's no craft. It's just these lights, and I can see another slight red light off to one side, which is this one on the front of the nose here, which I worked out later by building the model. So as I'm staring at this set of lights, we're all staring at them, the sky starts to ripple around the outside. It looked like a diamond shape, but that was because the nose was tilted down like this. So you can see the silhouette of a diamond. As soon as I seen the sky start to ripple, I thought there's something around those lights. And then immediately it decloaked. It was like Star Trek, you know, when the Klingons decloak their ship. It was just like that. It totally decloaked in front of us. And there was this enormous triangle, except the rear end was facing us. And as soon as it materialized, what happened next was its nose. So here we are at the rear end of it. Its nose floated up in the air like that. Now, if it had tilted from the middle of the craft, it would have struck the ground. It was that close to the ground. So the rear end stayed where it was, and the nose came up like this, like a horse rearing up to reveal the top surface of the craft. And the top of the craft was like a liquid effect with silver beams on top interlocking. Now, as we go on, I'll show you some more models that we've made which show that in a better configuration. This is the first hand-built model that I made out of what actually is the second model. My first one was stolen from my vehicle. There was a break into my vehicle and somebody stole my first model, which was a bit concerning. I never did find it again. Whoever broke into the car, they took the cassette player out the dashboard and they took the model of the UFO. Well, the cassette player was worth nothing, so I've got a feeling they were just looking for the UFO.
Yeah, some kid probably got that for Christmas. UFO model.
So at this point, there was something strange that happened, but we'll come back to that. Otherwise, it will make more sense if we go through the sequence of events. So this craft materialized right in front of us. And we were all shouting, stop, I want to get out, I want to get out. Me and my mother-in-law, she was 72 that day. She's passed away now, unfortunately. We would have got on board. We were so excited to see this thing in front of us. I mean, it was just beautiful to look at, the way it had been manufactured. Also, when it materialized, the two wingtips that were closest to us, they had like little fluffy white clouds of condensation appeared on them. And I believe that's because the craft itself was extremely cold, and this condensation is creating, it's come to the least points of resistance, which were the 3 points of the triangle. Again, I'll come back to that a little bit later on as to why I think that occurred. Right, so we're looking at it saying, let's stop, let's want to get out. And my wife is a very sensible person. So she drove forward to reverse into a gateway. The gateway was pretty much underneath this craft at the side of the road. It was a gateway to a horse's field, and there was a stable there with some horses in. But as she pulled forward, there was a big hedge that blocked the view, and I thought to myself, it's going to go now. So she reversed into the hedge, we jumped out, and sure enough, it had gone. We got out of the car and we stood there. There was no smell of any aviation fuel, no thermal signature, nothing. In fact, it was deadly quiet. But what we did see in the distance was another craft going away with 4 big red lights on the back. But this one was absolutely massive. This was like the size of a football pitch. We stood there looking at that going away, and I was going, there it is, there, look. And I knew nothing about UFOs. I said, look, it's changed its size. It's massive now, look. And then we're going, oh, I don't know. The girls are saying, oh, I don't know what it is. So then we got back into the car, drove back home. Now, my mother-in-law lives next. My brother-in-law bought the house next door to my mother-in-law. He was in the Range Rover, the one that was back at the pub. So the whole episode didn't last very long. We drove home, and there, to our surprise, was the Range Rover, and they arrived home before us. And also, they were all out of the Range Rover inside the house having a cup of tea. So they've obviously arrived home a bit before we arrived home, but we've never seen them pass us, and they never saw us, and they never saw the craft either. It was all very peculiar. So what happened then was, because I'm a draftsman, I started drawing it the very next day. I was running my own business at the time, so that gave me the opportunity to start making some models. But I started drawing it for a start, producing some nice, clear, concise pictures of what we'd seen that night, and my daughter drew some pictures as well. And then I started to make the models. And like I say, the first one was stolen from a van. The second one was this one, the wooden one, plywood with battery and lights. But then a friend of mine came to see me one day, and he said he bought a 3D printer. And as part of an experiment, he wanted to make my UFO for me. So he produced this. This is the first one. So this is the first triangle that he produced for me on the 3D printer. Now, if you look at it closely, you can see it's got the beams. There we go. You can see the beams raised up on the surface. And he's put some batteries in it. So we've got the lights at the back, got the lights underneath, etc. I mean, it really is a beautiful piece of kit. It took him a long time to make it. He didn't want anything for doing it. The difficult part was getting all the design files together to print it. Once you do that, it's fairly easy to keep manufacturing. So I came up with a great idea. I said, if I sell these on eBay for you, will you make me a big one? I don't want any money. I just want you to make me a large craft that's more like the original that we saw that night. So we did, and here it is. This is the final model. We'll switch the lights on this one. Now this one has got the full color, if you like. So for instance, if we look at the surface, we can see the beams. They're a different color to the liquid surface. Can you see the surface of the craft? It looks like it's liquid. They made a great job of the paint job on this particular craft, this model. It looked like liquid mercury running up and down the surface, but the beam, and it was moving. It was all moving, but the silver beams were not moving, and they were interlocking at 90 degrees. You could see it had clearly been manufactured, but it looked like nothing I'd ever seen in my life. But it looked organic. It looked like it was alive, even though you could see it was a craft that had been manufactured. It looked alive. It felt like it was alive. And when it tilted up, 3 thoughts came straight into my mind. The first one was, my God, aliens exist. The second one was abductions must take place. And the third one, this explains mysteries from history, like pyramids and things, because I got the feeling these guys have been around a long, long time. So this is the final model. The underneath of the model is actually based on a Belgium sighting. I met a gentleman called Omar Fowler. He sent me some drawings that had been made in Belgium. This was back in the 80s. This is the underneath. We never saw the underneath. We only saw the rear end and then the top as it rose up, and it floated like a submarine underwater, the way it moved. It was really weird to see its maneuver. But this one in Belgium had also got these lines in relief coming off the surface, interlocking. It just seemed to me it could be the same craft because we've got the beams on the top coming off.
Now, the one in Belgium, now, are there pictures of that, or is this eyewitness testimony?
There's no pictures of it. No, there's drawings that the guy did when it flew over his head. And I've got sketches of that inside the book that I've written. So this is what I always call the nuts and bolts of the story. The craft, the models we've built. But there is more to it. And this is what really freaked me out and probably why I've become obsessed, especially as I'm an engineer by trade. I mean, just seeing the thing was incredible. It just blew me away. You knew straight away that it was not from this world. You could just tell. And it was like the Oz effect. When we got out the car, it was so quiet. There was nothing around. And after a while, cars are coming again and other air traffic. But what happened was, again, this is going to sound really weird. Here we are staring at the rear of the craft, and I'm staring at this particular light here, the one that's got the crisscross effect. Then it materializes, and you get the white fluffy clouds around these wingtips and around the front one as well. But then as it rose in the air like this, as it floated up, all of a sudden, I had this close-up view. It was like somebody had put a pair of binoculars in front of my eyes, and what I could see, this was the first view, was a close-up of the beams interlocking. The second view was the nose, and it was that close I couldn't see any more of the beams. I could just see the big round nose, and the way it had been manufactured was absolutely stunning. I remember thinking, this is so beautiful. And then there was a third view, a side view which showed a milky white core, and it showed the top and the bottom joined to this milky white core, and they rolled over like a hovercraft skin or the edges of a pie that had been baked in. And so there were 3 distinct close-up views. Now that allowed me to build the model to such a great accuracy. This is an accurate reconstruction of the model. Without those extra views, I wouldn't have been able to build this, because from our viewpoint, there's no way we would have seen this side view here. We only saw the back and the top. So I thought for many years that I'd had an out-of-body experience. But I met a gentleman at a UFO conference called, I'm sure you would have heard of him, Bud Hopkins. Mm-hmm. I met quite a few famous UFO researchers over the years. They used to come to conferences that we had in Leeds in the north of England. Now, I got 5 minutes with Bud. I told him the story of the craft, how it materialized, and then how I got these close views. And I said to him, I think I've had an out-of-body experience. And Bud says to me, no, he says, that wasn't an out-of-body experience. He says, they were images placed in your mind by the occupants on board the craft. It was like telepathy. And I thought, that sounds a bit weird. That sounds a bit far out, that does. And then somebody, this other woman who was in the queue, butted in, and that was the end of my conversation with Bud. Unfortunately, he couldn't expand on why he thought that. But I still kept on clinging to the idea of an out-of-body experience. I didn't take on board the telepathy. I tried to do an out-of-body again. I read books on it, but nothing happened. And then one day, what had happened, I did a presentation in Birmingham, and I talked about the close viewing. And the guy there, Dave Holden, said to me that he had a similar report where an alien had got out of a craft, and this guy was standing on a farmer's gate quite a distance away, but all of a sudden the alien's face was right in front of him, telling him to get away and move. He shouldn't be there. I was thinking, well, that's very similar. Now, as coincidences go, within 2 weeks of that, I had an email from a guy in Connecticut in America. And he started off by saying, I've had a close encounter with a triangle, and just like you, I had 3 images placed in my mind, three close-up views. And he went on to tell me the details of the craft that he saw. He thinks one of the views was internal of the craft, but he's seen this from his car. The craft got very close to him, and then there was some other interaction with it as well. He's never told anybody that. He's not told MUFON or anybody else. He's only got in touch with me because he saw one of my presentations on the internet. Now, when I read that, it was like eureka. The penny dropped. All of a sudden, I realized Bud Hopkins was right. I'd been listening to a lot of David Jacobs stuff on the abductees, and everything is done by telepathy. And a lot of the time, images are placed in people's minds. Now, that would make sense. I've spent my whole life working with images. That's what I do. And I'm still doing it now, actually. I'm doing embroidery designs, digitization of different logos, etc. So my whole life has been spent around images. And an image paints, a picture paints 1,000 words. So it then became clear that what took place was that during the close encounter, and this took me a while to take this on board, an alien on board that craft had telepathy with me and put those images into my mind. And over the years, I have wondered whether the first 3 thoughts that I had when the craft tilted up may have been telepathy as well, because it was like meeting God, even though I'm not religious. It was beautiful. It was not frightening. It was totally the opposite. It was, you felt love and just felt flipping heck. This is amazing, absolutely incredible, So I believe, right, what happened then, and I put it all in the book, I started to have some strange experiences after the event. Now, I was 40 years old when I saw the craft. Now, in the first 40 years of my life, as far as I can recall, I had no paranormal experiences, no UFOs, no ghosts, no nothing. Now, all of a sudden, after the UFO, I'm starting to have some strange things happening, paranormal things. And I believe this happens quite a lot with people. It's called the hitchhiker effect. They've even got a name for it now, whereby people who have close encounters go on to have other things happen to them. So I kept a list of everything that took place, and I put the dates on as well. I'm glad I did that. Now I put all of those into the book. It lasted for about 18 months. It's certainly quietened off a lot now. But I'll tell you about one of them, for instance, and this is such an interesting one. I was at the river fishing. I love fishing. So I'm down the River Soar in Rothley in Leicestershire, actually standing in the water in waders fishing, and I am loving it. I'm in my element. It's a beautiful thing to do, and it's a lovely day. And then I hear some footsteps coming across the field towards me. And I thought, oh, that's could be some guys shooting from the farm. I've seen them in the past, so I better get up and make myself known that I'm sitting at the river, down at the river. So I climbed quite a big bank. I climbed up the bank onto the towpath, and there was nothing there. But the noise was continuing, and it was coming towards me, and there was 4 footsteps, either 2 people or 1 big animal. And I started to freak out a little bit here because it's getting closer and I can't see anything. It's totally invisible. So in my rod holder, I've got an umbrella with a big spike that you stick into the ground. So I took that out for protection. I was thinking, what am I going to do? And I thought, my thought was it could have been a cat. So I think if it's a big cat, because they do get released in the countryside and it's going to come for me, I'm going to go back down the bank of the river and get it to jump on me and impale it on this spike that I've got. And I mean, that was my game plan. And I was bricking it. I was really scared, I have to say. Now, this thing, whatever it was, walked in front of me, maybe 6 foot in front of me. And it went from left to right, but not a blade of grass was moving, not a twig was moving. And then it just started to fade away. So I started hitting the grass with the pole that I got the spike. And I put that under my arm and clapped my hands. Nothing came out, and I stood there and it just went. And I thought, that wasn't here. That was somewhere else. You hear of these things where it's some sort of space-time contingency. Something took place, but whatever it was not in our world. And that was the day, Derek, that exact point that I realized that the UFO I'd seen was not from outer space. It's got to be dimensional because it's left a residue with me, and these other things are happening. And I wonder whether these other things happen all the time, but we're just not aware of them. We're not using our brain to pick them up. But from the UFO experience for the next 18 months, there were quite a lot of things that took place that were paranormal. And I know this was left over from the UFO because I had nothing prior to the UFO. So I am absolutely convinced that these beings are interdimensional. I don't believe they live in hollow earth. I don't believe they might live in hollow earth, they might live in the sea. But the way the encounter took place, it was almost like we was in a different dimension ourselves for a short while. Because the next day when we went back, from where we turned onto the Foss Way, there's no way we could have seen it. There was too many trees and bushes and stuff in the way. It was almost like it was a different scenery. But all of it was just so strange. But the gateway was still there the next day. But yeah, the whole thing had this high strangeness about it. So that's pretty much the story. I mean, it's calmed down now. Although at the end of this chat, I'll tell you something that happened just a couple of weeks ago to a friend of mine, well, to my wife actually. So that generally is what took place, and that's why I've become obsessed, because of the telepathy. I believe, and it sounds odd, but I believe I've had telepathy with an alien during that close encounter. Mm-hmm. And that was to build the model.
I love the fact that you seem like a regular, well-to-do guy. You don't seem like somebody seeking attention, seeking fame, or, this is just your story, regular guy, and you had this encounter. So for you to be able to share all of these little weird nuances, like the telepathic communication, feeling like you may have left your body, and then the paranormal that continued to happen. I love that, because it's always like, the woo-woo people, or, this crazy redneck farmer in the fields or something, but it's somebody that's got their stuff together. It's a professional in your field. You're trusted with a lot of responsibility, and then you have the encounter. So I really love the fact that that people are at least talking about it. Let's say that, because maybe those people have been having the encounters. They just don't want to talk about it to seem woo-woo, crazy, stuff. Was there ever that for you, or was it just like, I'm all in,
Strangely
I
enough,
can't wait to make sense?
no. Over the last 20 odd years, nearly 25 years, I think there's only been one or two people who have wooed it. Everybody else has gone with it. And a lot of them have actually said, like, because it's you, we believe you've seen something. We need to see it ourselves. I mean, I needed to see it myself. But obviously I've got integrity and people believe what I'm telling them, to be honest. The amazing thing is the amount of people that I've met in the UFO world over the last 25 years who have had experiences. So it's lovely talking to those people, because I'm not here to try and convert anybody to make them believe what I've seen. I'm just telling my story, and it's up to you whether you want to take it on board or not. I mean, the book, for instance, I went to a conference. I was asked if I would do a presentation, take my models along, and I did that. I got quite nervous, but I managed to do an hour's presentation, which went really well. And then a guy called Philip Kinsella, the twins, Philip and Ronald Kinsella.
Yeah, I've had them both on.
Yeah, I was chatting with them, and they Philip said, "Well, why don't you write a book?" I said, "Well, I thought about writing the book, but not until I retire, and I'm not sure what I'll be able to fill it." He said, "Well, just do like the extension of your presentation that you've done today." So I thought, oh, right. So I came home and I started writing the book. Now, I put in everything that I've been talking about to yourself, but we didn't have enough to fill a book. I was in touch with Philip Mantle. I'd met him like many times over the years, and he was saying we really need to get some more sightings in there, some other people's experiences. So I worked on it quite hard, and I produced the book because I want to tell people my story. I haven't produced it because I want to make money. That's not the point of the book. So what's happened, I've created like this, almost an encyclopedia. I've got 130 different close encounters in the book. Now, that is a phenomenal amount. And not one of those sightings, not two of those sightings are the same. They're all different,
wow.
Which gets rid of the TR3B theory.
Yeah, that's the first thing that comes to my mind when you show the models, because that was the popular one, or at least the ones they've released to us in the public eye and those kind of things.
Well, it's what people have released on the internet, but we've never got any definitive answer that they actually do exist or photos do exist. I'm sure, because I realized on that next day that if I'd seen this UFO and they're real, I'm not the only one that's done it, and the military must know about it, so they must be working on these projects. But whether they can understand them or not, I don't know. There'd be a certain amount, maybe there might be materials that are not available on this planet that have come from other dimensions. I believe, from what I've heard from other abductees, that they fly the craft with the mind, not with conventional equipment. Like, so to get a human to try and fly an alien spacecraft must be very difficult. So the book, I created the book, and what I started to do when people were writing to me with their own sightings was to ask if they've had any other paranormal experiences. And I was getting more people saying yes than no. God, I knew this would happen. It's the dimensional thing. So all of these people, and I think the majority of them, apart from myself, I seem to be a bit different to the others, I've had paranormal experiences during childhood and growing up in the teens. And all of it then culminates in a UFO experience. It's the other way around with me. I had nothing. I had the UFO experience and started to have the paranormal experiences afterwards. It has made me realize that there must be a lot of people see a lot of things in this world, and they probably don't talk about it. They probably might be scared to death from what they've seen.
Yeah.
But the world is not like as we imagine it to be. It's not just the nuts and bolts and everything we see. And I see it all in a different light now. It makes me laugh sometimes at the way the humans are behaving and what the aliens must think about us. But the book has been very enlightening.
I mean, it seems like they're trying to help. It seems like they're trying to help, but we don't know what we're looking at. And they're trying to show us things. One of the first things that comes to me with my own experiences that I try to find similarities in what you're sharing is almost like they're trying to show us free energy and technology. I mean, if we read all of the ancient holy books, right? You said that that's like, oh, okay, this ancient history, this explains it. When we read about that, there's all of this stuff about how the angels taught man technology. They taught them all types of really cool stuff that they didn't know. Mankind eventually learns how to use it and uses it for evil for the most part, right? You know,
Yeah,
rulers, and they keep it away from the regular people. Maybe this is them trying to share this beautiful technology with regular people. I've seen many different, visions and ecstatic encounters where things are just not as they seem, and it seems like um, it's beyond my pay grade. Like, why I don't know what to do with this kind of thing. Someone like you, maybe a little bit closer to you making models, right? I mean, we're doing our part. I'll say that, right? I got a podcast. I'm at least now we're talking kind of thing, and I'm interested, and to see the bigger picture on the collective, how it works. So that's a win for sure. But because when you look at the technology, whether it's ancient or future technology, both probably, right? Um, have you seen the videos of like what can be done with mercury? Like there's really interesting videos of them putting electricity to mercury that's a liquid. It'll start spinning and then it'll solidify instantly by putting electricity or something to mercury. Have you seen any of that? Because that's what it seems like. That's what you said the liquid looked like, and then has the ability to morph and change shape instantly. We've seen those videos.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. Now, I watched a video. Somebody sent me a video of a chap called Boz Almoza, I think his name was. He's on YouTube. He does an experiment with quantum levitation. So he gets a piece of metal and he freezes it down to 0 degrees Kelvin. Then he puts it on a magnetic field and it just goes round and round.
Yeah.
And if you stop it, it just sits in the air with nothing attached to it. But what amazed me about it was that the amount of vapor that was coming off the piece of metal because the metal was so cold. And then that gave me an idea. That gave me a theory. So this is the theory. But bear in mind, this is not a man-made craft. This is definitely alien because of the dimensional stuff I've experienced since then. So, but what I wondered was the liquid on the surface here, if that is something like liquid nitrogen or liquid mercury that's freezing cold, 0 degrees Kelvin, these beams on the surface, now if these protrude through the transparent skin down into the liquid, all of these beams then become superconductors. All of these beams are super chilled, top and bottom. And once you've got these as superconductors, you then got quantum levitation. So then the craft will just sit there in midair, and then you'll be able to direct it whichever direction you want to go in. But rather than using the normal propulsion system, I think they're using quantum levitation, using the liquid to freeze these beams on the surface. Now, often you'll hear people talk about pipes that look like refrigerator pipes running around underneath of a craft. And I've got a picture in the book from Michael Schrack that shows one of these craft full of like lit pipes running up and down the surface. Now, I surmise that those pipes are carrying the liquid. And so all of the pipe work becomes a superconductor, whereas this is slightly different. It's got like a whole lake of liquid mercury with the beams inserted into it. But the end result is quantum levitation. And because of the fact when it materialized and we got the little vaporization, the little clouds on the tips, on the 3 tips of the craft, that makes me suspect that it is extremely cold. But I don't know. we're only guessing, but it is my theory that I've got on that.
One of the things you said about you gazing at the craft in awe and in wonder, and your eyes are fixated, and then you feel like you don't know if you had an out-of-body experience. There was this weird exchange where you saw it right in front of you. I do this show, and I love having these conversations to work my own stuff out, my own encounters and experiences. And it's interesting that you say that, because just yesterday I'm in the backyard gazing at the sky, and with the question, which is what I do, if what if those clouds, what if they're in the clouds, traveling, watching over humanity, coming closer. They have jobs and roles, biblical type roles of maybe gathering souls when souls die, assisting them, just letting the mind wander, because that's how you figure things out. And I'm just looking and gazing in the different types of clouds that are coming by, and I'm gazing at it, and literally for, like you said, I mean, it was only, it felt like just a second or two. And I'm gazing, and I'm looking at this huge cloud where I can see through, and there's stuff moving, but it's just vapors and clouds, right? I don't see anything definitive to say that's it, but it's like I'm acknowledging it as if it is. Like, hey, I see you. I know you're in there. Hello, it's passing right over me. And I'm looking at it, just gazing. And then all of a sudden, like you said, boom, right there in your vision, like the clouds disappeared. And it was just the gray, it was just up close. Like all of the definition disappeared, and I saw the clouds up close. I didn't see a craft, I didn't see aliens or anything like that. It was just it was in front of me. Everything morphed into one, and it was in front of me.
Yeah.
But even yesterday, just, and you're sharing that, and these little, and I've had something similar like that before, of just gazing, feeling like you're into the stars or whatever, trying to look and just see, hey,
Right.
you're up there.
I mean,
kind of thing.
the more you
It's not
talk,
scary, it feels strange, but I do practice the art of gazing at different things, and the clouds is one of the things that I look at, and maybe that's in us, that we can tap into that, or if it's an exchange that they allow you to.
yeah, I think there's a lot more inside us than what we realize.
Yeah.
I now believe it wasn't an out-of-body experience. I do believe it was telepathy. The interesting thing about that is, the other occupants of the car, my wife, my daughter, and mother-in-law, they never went on to have any other experiences, but they also didn't have any telepathy that night. So my belief is that by showing me the close-up images of the craft, they tapped into some part of my brain and left it open for a while, which allowed all these other things to come through, which I believe are always here, but we're just not aware of them because that part of the brain is not working. But the more people you talk to, the more information you gather, you start to look for, what I've always looked for is connections and similarities between sightings. So you get somebody in South America and somebody in America and somebody here talking about craft and the way they move. I remember one guy had seen a triangle. He said that the way it moved was like if you get a sheet onto a bed, you've got the four corners, and you put the sheet on the bed, and it's got air trapped in it. And as the air comes out, the sheet comes down onto the bed. When I read that, I thought, yeah, you've seen one. I know you've seen one, because you're describing exactly the movement that I've seen. And you need to see it to describe it. In fact, the majority of the people in this book, when they talk about the craft, they talk about it gliding, its movement, and they don't talk about it moving like a normal aircraft. Like, it's always in this terms of just gliding along like a fluid motion, like a craft underwater. And sometimes I've been seen with the blunt end first as well. Right, so they're not aerodynamic as such. The shape is not done, I don't think, for aerodynamics. I think it's done for stability rather than aerodynamics, because of the propulsion system they're using. But it's just fantastic to talk to so many people around the world. And the other thing I've always wondered about is, like, I now realize that these creatures, they're so more intelligent than we are, so advanced. They are there. God knows what they're doing and why they keep hiding from everybody all the time, and only select a certain few. But what took place that night down the Foss Way was done on purpose. That was not accidental. There was nobody else involved with us, and it allowed us to see it close. Now, how many people have seen the top of a triangle? Most people only ever see the bottom because they're flying overhead. I've only got one account in the book of somebody else who was looking down into a valley who saw the top of a triangle. So that night, they went to a lot of trouble to show us, and to show me especially, the craft and the details of the craft. We all knew it was not from this world, But the extra details he showed to me was amazing. And then you think, well, why? Was they watching us in the pub as well? And did they follow us home? We had a lot of electrical problems at home the next day. Somebody suggested that the triangle followed us home and scanned the house to see what our reaction was if we were doing perhaps what they wanted us to do. I mean, is my part in all of this subtle disclosure? I know I've spoke to millions of people now around the world and shown the model, but I'm hoping it does do something, because otherwise, why have I gone to all this effort? I've written a book, I've made models, done all these podcasts that I've not, I'm getting used to them, but it's not something I've relished doing. But I've done it to spread the word. And is that what my part is? So it's not going to be a big thing. Like, I'm not going to be on national television in America, like standing there with an alien or anything. But it's all very subtle, So maybe over the years, my book will get read by more people as more triangles are seen. But I can't help feeling that it was done for a purpose, but I can't figure out exactly what that purpose is.
Let me ask you this. So I catch things on camera, and this is my life too. Very strange, right? And this is just what I do. And I saw for the first time, I've never seen any videos, and I have been scouring the internet for years and watching anything I can find as far as footage and different crafts and pyramid crafts and all kind of crazy things out there, right? But I found for the first time, from my experience, I filmed it, a craft that looked like, or I say craft, could be a living being, right? There's that, you said it seemed like it was alive. There is that looked like a Merkaba. So it looked like a tetrahedron, to where it's two triangles interlocking. There's in the spiritual New Age movement, you see that symbol everywhere. It's a Merkaba symbol. It's like the Star of David, but it's 3D.
Yeah.
And I've got it on camera, flying around, going to the sun and depositing white things out the bottom that go, and it's a whole bunch of them, and they deposit it into the sun. Have you heard of anything like that? Because I've never seen anything yet. Other people are saying, yeah, we've seen something similar, but the Merkaba ones, I've got a bunch of them on camera, but that's
I
the
can't
one
say
that I feel drawn to, because it was just different.
No, I haven't seen that exact shape. I haven't seen two triangles together. No. I have seen a sphere. This was only about 3 years ago now, during the lockdown over here. I was out walking the dog, and it was like a big metallic ball, and it was just going along, and on one side of it, like a crescent shaped white light was flashing. It was flashing on and off, but it wasn't steady. It was like it was out of control. It was like flash, flash, stop, stop, flash, 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 stop. And I watched it for quite a while, and it was down in the Earth atmosphere. By the time I seen it disappearing, I could see fields behind it. So that was pretty exciting. But I've seen little spheres in the sky, but I haven't seen anything like the first encounter. I've not seen another triangle. Before I forget, you mentioned the pyramid there. This is the book that I've written. If anybody's interested, it's available on Amazon. Triangular UFOs, or United Kingdom. I'll read you a little bit from here if you don't mind. It won't take long.
Sure thing.
A lady called Lindsay Kerner, Nottingham. He says, my friend was 3 years older than me, and we were unemployed at the time. We decided to go and visit Dad's property, a 10 to 15 minutes walk away, and we arrived at 8 to 9 p.m. The house had a football pitch just beyond the back garden with wild space surrounding it. The weather had been dry all day. When we came to leave late that night, we glanced over to the football pitch via an entrance. We both spotted the mist and a pyramid, so we decided to go and investigate. The pyramid object was the size of a council house, and not quite on the ground, but hovering just above the ground by about a foot or two. The pyramid looked to be made of glass and was transparent, and I could see swirls of coloured gas inside, yellow, blue, green, in fact like a rainbow. As they approached the pyramid, it backed away from them, but when they backed away, the pyramid returned to its original position. The craft at that point became solid. In fact, Lindsay described it as metallic with Egyptian hieroglyphs on all the sides. One of these hieroglyphs was a man with a bird's head carrying a long spear. Lindsay and a friend became nervous and decided to go home, where they believed they lost between half to 3/4 of an hour in time. They went back to have a look later and it had gone. Now, she phoned me all excited and told me that. Twice she phoned me to talk about that. Wow. And when she told me, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, Egyptian hieroglyphs on the side of a pyramid-shaped UFO on a football pitch in Nottingham. I think this is incredible. And I believe it. I believe every story in the book is true. I don't believe anybody's making it up, because you wouldn't want to bring ridicule on yourself. You wouldn't do this unless you had a proper experience. You wouldn't have the courage to go through with it. But yeah, there's some fascinating encounters in this book.
Wow, for sure. Definitely people need to check it out, and the imagery and the stories. You know, it's once you for me interview so many people and talk to so many people, you look for consistency. You look for like a commonality. It's like, okay, here's the deal. For skeptics or whatever, something's going on. Something's going on. So it's not that, all of these people are lying or they're thinking they're seeing something else. And no, there's too many people, and people are together seeing the same thing. Now, what does your wife and everyone else say about the experience? Because obviously that's it's very interesting how two people have the same experience, and one's like, yeah, that was strange. And you're just like obsessed, right? You talk about the telepathy and stuff like that, but even still, just seeing it, like, change your life. I mean, I'm the same way with the encounters I've had. I've had people with me who they don't talk about it, and I can't stop talking about it,
Yeah. My daughter was 12 at the time. She just took it in a stride, to be honest. Even now, she knows that she saw something very strange, and she saw the triangle, and she drew the same pictures that I did. The mother-in-law, she was really excited. Unfortunately, like I say, she died just 3 or 4 years ago now. When we cleared out her bedroom, I found all these newspaper cuttings on paranormal stuff. She'd never talked about any of this in all of her life. So she's obviously had some sort of experiences in the past. So, so she was really taken with it. Now, my wife, because she was driving and being sensible, she didn't actually see the craft materialize. By the time she pulled forward and reversed into the gateway, it had gone. So just me, my mother-in-law, and my daughter saw the actual craft materialize. And my mother-in-law described it the same. So she said it got girders on the surface, is how she described it. So when we all drew pictures, I got my wife to draw a picture, and this is an interesting thing. She drew 3 red lights in a perfect triangle. It's not shining very bright at the moment, but a perfect triangle, no white light in the middle. She saw 3 red lights in a perfect equilateral triangle. Now, like I say, when we approached the craft, it was tilted at an angle like this with the nose down. There is no way that she could have seen 3 red lights in a perfect equilateral triangle. So what I believe may have happened is that the little craft in front of us, because it was like the side, it would be about 100 feet across the bottom, maybe 80 feet, like the size of a bus, or a small house. Like, what I believe happened, it's only a theory, that this was an ambush. This was the bait. Me, my mother-in-law, my daughter, we were transfixed on this thing and watching the lights and watching it materialize, and then watching it maneuver in front of us. But my wife was looking forward on the road, and I think what she may have seen was the underneath of the large craft that when we jumped out of the car, we seen going away from us. And so I think there's a possibility that the small craft went back to this large mothership, and what my wife drew was the underneath of the mothership as it passed over the car. I've put a drawing in the book that shows how the ambush would have worked. And looking at the trajectory of the craft going away from us, it would make sense that it did actually come over the car during the course of the ambush from the little one that was right next to us, almost landed. So that is a possibility. I mean, the other thing, when I say she couldn't have seen 3 red lights, there was no craft. at the time when we first approached it. It was just lights, and it was incredible to see. Now, what I've got here is yet another model. Now, this one is transparent. I've made this one so that you get an idea of like when you're approaching it.
I think that that's how we got to start engaging, really, like the transparent ones. I like that.
So why was it tilted at an angle like this? I believe it's because as we're driving along, we get to see the underneath. So we get to see more lights instead of it being flat, where we'd only see the lights on the side. By tilting up, it's showing more lights. But that shows intent, doesn't it? That they've done that on purpose to grab our attention. And where there's intent, there's a purpose, isn't there, behind it? It was almost like, wow, it was unmistakable. And that's why I built this see-through version. If you look at it without the lights on, it's quite spectacular. And that's how it appeared when we first arrived, before it actually then morphed into a solid object and then started floating around in front of us. Wow, I mean, the whole thing was just like being in a fantastic movie set. It was incredible. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's so strange when you have those encounters, and it's all in hindsight, because you have an encounter like that, and then you can go back and watch Star Wars or something and see similar things in the movie where somebody has probably had these experiences before too.
Yeah.
They felt that the best way to talk about it or to share it with the world is to make a movie and, hide all that stuff in there, like little things that are said by the characters and names of planets even that go back to the ancient world. It's little nuances that I feel like it has to be in hindsight to know you're looking at all the triangle ships and do they have circles on the bottom, and you'll start to see them and things like that.
That's right. And do they have beams on the surface and things like this? I've seen this on some of the programs over here, actually, where people have taken my model and they've started to reproduce it and show it in UFO documentaries on Netflix, which is nice, I guess, for them to copy my craft. Right, before we get towards the end, I just want to touch on something which is really odd. You might appreciate this, but I've never talked about this before because it's only just happened, actually. So my wife was with me at the time. We're no longer together, but we're still good friends. So we're separated, and now I'm remarried. So my latest wife does not believe in UFOs and aliens, but she's got a great sense of humor. She doesn't mind me getting involved with it, and she's always winding me up, like, saying all that UFO rubbish and look at that light in the sky and all that. So about 2 weeks ago, she works nights. She works in a care home. She came home early, 3 o'clock in the morning. She drove through the town of Hinckley. Now we live in Barwell, which is a village just outside of Hinckley. There's a little bit of countryside in between the two. So she's driving along at 3 o'clock in the morning. There's no other traffic around. As she passes a tree, she sees what looks like a light get switched on. Then as she comes out from the clearing of the tree to the low hedge, she stopped the car and there was a triangle. She showed me the distance she thinks it was away, which I reckon is about 200 yards. And she said it was huge, and it was the height of 2 houses, and it was completely white. And it was so bright that it lit up the farmer's field below. And she thought to herself, this is one of them triangles Colin's always on about, and just got scared and drove off, came back home. Funny thing was, she came in, although it was 3 in the morning, it did wake me up when she came in, but she forgot to tell me about it. If she'd have told me there and then, I would have gone straight out in the car, because it's only like half a mile away. It wasn't until the next day when she seen a report about UFOs. She goes, oh, I forgot to tell you last night, I seen one of your triangles. Now, how weird is that? Now, what is the chances of that occurring? I reckon it's pretty slim. The chances of us seeing a UFO of any sort is pretty slim, but to see a triangle so close when I've been banging on about them for 25 years, it's almost like a message. Now, a lot of people listening to this might think I've made it up. I know Philip, my agent, wanted me to do a press release to say that my wife had seen a triangle, but I was thinking, well, people are not going to believe this because it just seems too unreal that would occur. But it did occur, and that's got me wondering why. I can't believe again it was just a coincidence. I mean, it's just incredible. I don't know why that has occurred, unless it's just to, she obviously now believes in them and makes my life a bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
mean, even just for that, just to support you in your work and less stress and know,
yeah.
that you're supported in your household, for sure. That does a lot, even just for you sharing your story and, being encouraged, for sure.
That's right. I mean, she's down cooking dinner at the moment whilst I'm here chatting away. So she obviously knows what I'm up to and she's quite happy with it. But I just, it makes you think, are you being monitored? Are they watching? Is there more to this? I don't know.
Yeah.
The whole subject is so strange.
Yeah. Well, that for me, that's the powerful thing about it, that it, it makes you wonder. It doesn't make everybody wonder that. It
No,
makes you wonder that. And that's I think the important part for you to wonder, and then to go out and ask and maybe live your life like you're being watched. What would you do if you were? And if they're watching you, how about you watch them? Go out
yeah,
and gaze. I know you're out there. Where are you? That kind of thing. And
yeah.
see what happens. I mean, have you looked into that phenomena at all? The CE5 initiative?
C5. No, no, I haven't. No, but I do remember in the early days, I'd often see lights in the sky and they'd be stopping and turning through 90 degrees. So I know it wasn't normal. And that would often occur after I'd been watching some UFO videos or DVDs,
Yeah.
getting immersed in it and then going out the back to have a cigar, as I used to. I don't smoke anymore, but I'd go out and then I'd see something moving in the sky. I even brought a camcorder to try and record these things. And I remember one night I'm watching this star coming across, and I thought it was a satellite. It's coming across, and it stopped, turned through 90 degrees. And I got my camera on my side, so I pulled my camera up, and it had gone just like that. I thought, you're going crazy. You're losing the plot here, like. And I had to calm myself down. I think, no, I did see it. I know it was there. But yeah, another one. They're in the book. A big ball of orange light inside a cloud over the park. On a really wet, damp night. I'd been to a UFO conference, funny enough, and I'd just come back. It was on the Sunday night. And again, I went to get my camera. And this time, when I picked the camera up, I thought to myself, oh, I know what's going to happen. It's going to go. Sure enough, when I got back to the window, gone. So it makes you wonder, like, if you have a close encounter in the future, if anybody listening to this sees a craft, I think the first thing to do is to enjoy it and just look at it and try and take the detail in. I think if you get your phone out to take a picture, it's going to go. If you get a picture, people won't believe it. It'll probably be distorted anyway. So
Yeah.
enjoy the moment is what I would say.
Yeah. That's so true. I mean, I tried to do the same thing early on, having a awesome sighting. And then here I go try to run to get my phone. And the phone's not good enough to even record the stars and stuff anyway. And it's like, you're kind of jumping out of the experience and it's gone, versus just,
That's right, yeah.
I mean, even now I'm actually catching stuff on camera now, but I think for the most part, I kind of know what to look for and which areas to film and things like that. But it is about being in the moment. And then you want to always go get the phone. It's actually a big learning thing for me. And I've been in this for a long time too. And it's just something recently I've been able to get my phone and film. And then really go back and edit footage too, to see if there's even anything, just because I know kind of nuances and stuff to look for, and then how to edit light so that you can see objects that are cloaked to the naked eye anyway.
Yeah.
So there's that.
There is that, yeah.
But have you, let me ask you this before we go, with all the stories and all the research too, have you seen or heard of any I know you said you haven't seen, but possibly videos, any of them that are like square or like rectangle, like with those right angles, like any types of ship or any anomaly like that? Square.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few like that. I've got a good drawing in the book actually of a triangle a guy witnessed, and when he looked up underneath it, inserted inside it was another triangle, a smaller one, which have got the lights on. There was also a rectangular shaped UFO that was also trapped underneath of the large triangle. And funnily enough, only a couple of days ago, I was reading a report. I can't remember where I got it from. And this guy had seen a triangle over her house. It was a woman who saw it. And she phoned the woman up in the house, and she didn't know that there was a triangle above a house. But while she was watching it, it transformed itself into a square. So it went from a triangle to a square. And I've heard that once or twice along the way. Yeah, I do believe there are these square objects floating around out there.
Wow, man! Thank you for your work. And if you have any more encounters, or you want to come back on here and talk, I'm open anytime. If you have any new hypothesis, I mean, that's the big thing too.
Yeah.
Who are they and what do they want, right? And that doesn't even, when you're talking about having this, telepathic communication kind of thing, your dreams get pretty interesting.
My dreams have always been. My dreams have always been very interesting, full color, full on. I've even managed to take control of a dream because I've figured out I was dreaming.
Yep.
Which takes a bit of doing at times. And then I know during some of my dreams, I've tested myself. I said, well, if I jump off this cliff now, I'm going to be all right because I'm dreaming. And then I thought, well, what happens if I'm not dreaming? And I've backed away.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've always had plenty of vivid dreams along the way.
So I guess before we go, I mean, what is it? Who are they? It's the.
I believe from my own research that we have greys, obviously the smaller greys. I think there were some taller greys. There's Nordics, reptilians, and at the top of the tree seem to be the praying mantis type aliens. They seem to be the ones that are in charge, and I believe they're dimensional. That's as much as I know. I mean, I don't know which dimension. There might be several dimensions that they're coming from. But that's what I truly believe. Yeah, 100%. That these are dimensional beings, and I think they've always been around. There must be several parallel universes running alongside our own. It'd be fascinating to see, wouldn't it? If you popped over to their dimension, would they have the same planetary systems and Milky Ways and things that we've got on our dimension? I don't know. It's incredible, isn't it? It's incredible.
No, it is. It is. And I ponder, I think, I gaze, I study, I do all of it. And it's so beautiful. I feel like there's not enough hours in the day when it comes to this, the majesty and the awe and the wonder about all of this stuff in this subject and what it's done for my life. And obviously what it's done for you and many of our listeners, people listening, they've had very similar experiences. And I know your work's helping them so much.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. I mean, without my experience, I was freaking out a bit. So I wish I could have got a book like the one that I've produced and read that. That would have calmed me down. So if there's anybody out there who's had an experience and they're a bit on their own and they want something to read to calm them down, then my book could do the job.
Awesome. Where's the best place to get it?
Sorry?
Where's the best place to get it? It would be Amazon?
It's Amazon. Yeah, it's available on Amazon. It's on a Kindle, hardback, softback, and audio book as well. So Triangular UFOs of the United Kingdom by Colin Saunders. Can't believe I've actually written a book as well. So that's how much this subject has influenced me to get involved. There's no way I can leave it alone now, actually. So
yeah, right. I've got the book. I've done what I'm going to do. Maybe not. I doubt it.
Maybe there'll be another one at some point.
In. Colin, thanks so much for hanging out with me, man. It was a good conversation. Thanks for sharing your story. And
and
do it again.
Incredible as it sounds, it's all true, Derek. So I hope your listeners enjoy it. So thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again. Thank you.
Thank you. You take care.